Over 2,500 years ago, in the heart of ancient Persia, a baby was spared from death, hidden away from a world of political intrigue and danger. This child, Cyrus, would grow up in secret, learning the ways of leadership, strategy, and survival. The small Persian tribes were ruled by powerful Medes, and ambition ran deep. Every ally could be a rival, every step a test of cunning. As Cyrus grew, tales of his intelligence and bravery spread quietly among the people. He observed the politics of kings and nobles, understanding that power was not taken by force alone. It was earned through loyalty, vision, and sometimes clever deception. By the time he reached adulthood, Cyrus had united allies from disparate tribes, plotting to overthrow the Median king. With strategy, courage, and careful planning, he moved swiftly, conquering neighboring lands not as a tyrant, but as a liberator, allowing people to keep their customs and faiths. This was the birth of a ruler who would one day stretch his empire from the Indus River to the Aegean Sea, a man whose vision and ambition would change the course of history. From a hidden prince to the future king of kings, Cyrus's story was only just beginning. As Cyrus grew, the harsh realities of the world around him became impossible to ignore. From a young age, he mastered horseback riding and archery, skills that would later make him a formidable commander. But it was not only physical training that shaped him. He watched closely as the Median court seethed with rivalries, betrayals, and shifting loyalties. Every whispered secret, every hidden plot, became a lesson in strategy and survival. Cyrus began forming alliances with local nobles and promising warriors, knowing that even the strongest prince could not succeed alone. He listened to the stories of those who had suffered under oppressive rulers, absorbing lessons about justice, mercy, and the power of respect. In the quiet moments, as he practiced his aim or rode across the plains, Cyrus was not just a boy learning skills. He was a future king, learning how to lead. He understood that true power lay in earning loyalty, balancing strength with fairness, and uniting diverse peoples under a single vision. Every challenge, every observation, was shaping the man who would one day change the face of the known world. As Cyrus matured, the whispers of a young leader began to echo across the Persian tribes. He did not seize power by fear alone. Instead, he earned the loyalty of his people through respect and fairness, listening to local leaders and honoring their customs. Small campaigns soon followed, not of destruction, but of consolidation, resolving disputes, forging alliances, and proving that his rule was just as much about wisdom as it was about strength. Cyrus understood that to unite a fragmented land, he would need more than armies. He would need trust, intelligence, and diplomacy. Across the plains of Persia, his influence quietly expanded. Neighboring tribes began to see him not as a conqueror, but as a visionary leader, capable of stability and prosperity. Each successful negotiation, each carefully planned campaign, was a step closer to uniting the Persian people under one banner. By the time he looked toward the greater lands beyond Persia, Cyrus had already proven himself a leader who wielded both strategy and justice, ready to rise from prince to king, and eventually to legend. The time had come for Cyrus to make his boldest move. The Median king, Astyages, ruled with power, but cracks in his rule were clear to those who watched closely. Cyrus, now a skilled strategist and respected leader, quietly gathered allies among discontented nobles and soldiers, all eager for change. Under the cover of secrecy, he executed a daring plan, one that would seize the Median throne with minimal bloodshed. It was a delicate balance of cunning, persuasion, and timing. Every decision mattered. One mistake could have cost him everything. When the moment arrived, Cyrus acted decisively. The Medes were subdued, not through slaughter, but through loyalty, diplomacy, and carefully orchestrated strategy. He declared himself king of Persia, uniting former rivals and adversaries under a single banner. In that moment, a prince who had grown in secret became a king known to history. Cyrus had achieved what few imagined possible, a united Persia, stronger and more stable than ever before, and ready to embark on a journey that would change the world. Having united Persia, Cyrus turned his gaze westward toward the wealthy kingdom of Lydia, ruled by the legendary Croesus. Known for its riches and power, Lydia seemed a daunting challenge, but Cyrus was not a king who relied solely on brute force. He combined careful military planning with diplomacy, sending envoys to gauge loyalty and negotiate with local leaders. When battles were fought, strategy and precision, not sheer numbers, secured victory. Croesus's cities fell, yet Cyrus ensured that the people were treated with respect, their customs preserved, their traditions honored. Through this balance of cunning, diplomacy, and measured strength, Cyrus demonstrated a new kind of leadership, one that conquered hearts as well as lands. Lydia became part of his growing empire, not through fear, but through admiration and trust. By the time he set his sights further east, Cyrus had proven a powerful lesson: that a ruler who respects his subjects and values intelligence over cruelty can expand his empire far more effectively than any conqueror who rules through terror alone. Cyrus's next challenge was Babylon, the jewel of Mesopotamia, famed for its massive walls, towering gates, and legendary defenses. Many kings had tried to conquer it, yet Cyrus approached with patience and cunning, relying on intelligence and strategy rather than brute force. He studied the city, learned its weaknesses, and used psychological tactics to turn fear into respect. His reputation as a fair and just ruler had preceded him, and the Babylonians soon realized that he came not to oppress, but to liberate. When the gates of Babylon opened peacefully, it was not by chance. It was the result of careful planning, diplomacy, and the trust Cyrus had earned. He entered the city to cheers, welcomed as a liberator, not a conqueror. In that moment, a prince who had once been hidden, and a young king who had united Persia, became a ruler of one of the greatest cities of the ancient world. Cyrus's empire now stretched from the mountains of Persia to the heart of Mesopotamia, a testament to vision, strategy, and the power of respect over fear. After entering Babylon, Cyrus's vision of leadership became clear to the world. He issued decrees, allowing exiled peoples to return to their homelands, restoring temples, and protecting religious practices. No longer would fear or oppression define his rule, justice and respect would. The famous Cyrus Cylinder captures this philosophy. Some historians call it the world's first human rights charter, a testament to a ruler who understood that loyalty is earned through fairness, not force. Across his vast empire, from Persia to Mesopotamia, peoples of diverse cultures and beliefs began to see a different kind of king, one who valued their traditions and freedoms. Through this simple yet revolutionary act, Cyrus secured the hearts of his subjects and set a standard for future rulers. His empire was not merely built on conquest, it was built on trust, tolerance, and the enduring idea that power carries responsibility. Cyrus had transformed from a hidden prince to a conqueror of nations, and now to a visionary leader whose legacy would echo through millennia. By the end of his reign, Cyrus had forged an empire unlike any the world had seen, stretching from the fertile Indus Valley to the shimmering waters of the Aegean Sea. He was celebrated not just as a conqueror, but as a king of kings, a ruler whose greatness lay in wisdom, justice, and respect for the people he governed. His policies of tolerance and clever governance became a blueprint for empires to come. Cities flourished, trade thrived, and cultures intertwined under a banner of unity and fairness. Cyrus's approach showed that true power is measured not by fear, but by the loyalty and trust of those you lead. The empire he built would not end with him. His successors inherited a strong, well-organized state, ready to expand even further under Darius and others. Cyrus's vision, a blend of strategy, compassion, and ambition, laid the foundation for a civilization that would shape world history for centuries. From a hidden child in Persia to a liberator of nations, Cyrus's story reminds us that great leadership is as much about the heart as it is about the sword. After the death of Cyrus's son, Cambyses, the mighty Persian Empire, once united under a single vision, fell into chaos. Rebellions erupted across its vast lands. In the east, pretenders declared themselves kings. In the west, governors turned against the throne. The empire Cyrus had built with patience and wisdom now trembled on the brink of collapse. In this storm of uncertainty, one man stepped forward: Darius, a distant relative of the royal family, a soldier, and an administrator. He saw opportunity where others saw ruin. But his path to power would not come through inheritance. It would come through courage, cunning, and careful alliances. With a handful of loyal nobles and generals, Darius began weaving a web of strategy, restoring order through intelligence and boldness. While others fought for crowns, he fought for stability. The fate of Persia hung in the balance, and its survival depended on one man's ability to rise above the chaos. This was the beginning of a new chapter when the architect of an empire took his first steps into history. The empire was fractured, but Darius was relentless. In the shadows of Persepolis, whispers of betrayal filled the halls. Pretenders plotted, generals hesitated, and assassins lurked in the dark. Yet Darius listened, learned, and struck first. One by one, conspiracies fell apart beneath his gaze. Rebels who sought to claim the throne found themselves surrounded by his swift and loyal forces. Darius's brilliance wasn't just in battle, it was in foresight. Every move was a calculation, every alliance, a chess piece perfectly placed. When the capital finally bowed to his command, Darius stood before his people and declared himself King of Kings, a title not seized by chance, but earned through strategy and strength. But even in victory, he knew one truth. To rule an empire built on rebellion, he would need more than power. He would need vision, order, and a system that could outlast any man, even a king. Darius did not rule from a throne of gold, he ruled from the road. Across burning deserts, icy mountains, and endless plains, the King of Kings rode beside his guards, dust rising behind him like a royal banner. He wasn't content with reports from advisors, he wanted to see his empire with his own eyes. From the fertile lands of Egypt to the marketplaces of Babylon, from the Indus Valley to the mountains of Media, Darius appeared where no ruler had ventured before. He walked among farmers, questioned soldiers, and met the elders of distant tribes. Each stop revealed a truth about his realm, its wealth, its weaknesses, and its spirit. He inspected governors known as satraps, testing their loyalty and wisdom. Some he rewarded with gold and honor, others he removed in disgrace. Corruption found no refuge in his shadow. But these journeys were not only about control, they were about understanding. Darius studied the languages, the customs, the beliefs that bound his people together. In doing so, he transformed Persia from a patchwork of nations into a living system united by justice, trade, and the will of one man. To his people, he was no distant ruler seated on marble. He was the traveler king, the watchful guardian who rode through their cities like a storm of order. And with every mile, the empire grew, not through conquest, but through connection. An empire as vast as Persia could not survive on the will of one man alone. Darius understood that power must be divided, but never lost. To govern millions, he created something the world had never seen before: the satrap system. The empire was split into provinces, each ruled by a satrap, a governor chosen for loyalty, not birth. These men commanded soldiers, collected taxes, and upheld the king's law. Yet Darius was no fool. Every satrap was watched by royal inspectors, the eyes and ears of the king, who reported directly to him. No betrayal went unseen. He standardized taxation, ensuring that gold, silver, and grain flowed evenly from every corner of the empire. Monthly reports, sealed with royal stamps, traveled along the roads to Persepolis. Through this network, Darius achieved the impossible, a balance between control and freedom. Local traditions remained, but all bowed to a single crown. The system was so effective that later empires from Alexander to Rome would imitate it for centuries to come. Darius didn't just rule his empire. He engineered it piece by piece, law by law, into a machine that could outlast kings themselves. Across blazing deserts and snowy mountain passes, Darius built more than a road. He built the backbone of an empire. The royal road stretched over 2,700 kilometers, from the golden city of Sardis in the west to the royal capital of Susa in the east. A ribbon of stone and dust, guarded and maintained, where hoofbeats carried messages faster than ever before in human history. At every day's ride stood relay stations, small fortresses where fresh horses, food, and shelter awaited the king's couriers. These riders, known for their speed and loyalty, became the lifeblood of the empire. Ancient historians would write, "Neither snow, nor rain, nor darkness of night can stop them from completing their appointed rounds." It was, in essence, the world's first organized postal system, centuries before Rome, millennia before modern nations. Along this great artery came caravans of silk from the east, spices from India, silver from Anatolia, and gold from Egypt. Markets buzzed, languages blended, and cultures met under the watchful order of Persian rule. But for Darius, the royal road was not only about trade or communication, it was a symbol, a message carved into the landscape itself. That from the Indus to the Aegean, from mountain tribes to city kings, all roads led to Persia and to him. Every echo of hooves across that road reminded his subjects of a truth he had forged from chaos. The empire was no longer a collection of lands. It was a single, living world, connected by stone, law, and vision. Darius knew that an empire's strength was not only in armies or roads, it was in gold, silver, and the trust of its people. Across Persia, from the bustling markets of Susa to the harbors of the Aegean, he introduced standardized coins, weights, and measures. No longer would traders haggle endlessly or merchants fear cheating. Commerce flowed smoothly, taxes were predictable, and cities prospered. A silver daric or gold sigloi carried the same value, whether in Babylon, Lydia, or Media. This standardization did more than simplify trade, it united a diverse empire. Farmers, merchants, and governors all understood the rules of the game, reducing disputes and ensuring fairness across hundreds of provinces. By creating this system, Darius laid the foundation not only for Persian prosperity, but also for future empires, centuries later, to adopt bureaucracies that could manage the world's wealth. The empire, once fragile and chaotic after Cambyses, now pulsed with life and order. Coins changed hands, markets thrived, and Darius's vision of a connected, prosperous Persia was no longer a dream, it was reality. Darius did not conquer blindly. He expanded with strategy, foresight, and patience. From the deserts of Egypt to the rugged lands of Thrace, and as far east as the Indus Valley, his armies moved with purpose, but so did his diplomacy. He formed alliances with local kings, established vassal states, and often preferred negotiation over battle. By respecting customs and rewarding loyalty, he reduced the risk of rebellion, ensuring that new provinces were integrated into the empire rather than crushed under it. Where force was necessary, it was precise and swift. Where persuasion worked, it built lasting bonds. Governors, military commanders, and tribal leaders alike learned that Darius ruled with a combination of strength, fairness, and vision. Through this balance of sword and counsel, the empire stretched further than any had imagined, held together not just by fear, but by systems of order and mutual obligation. Darius had transformed Persia from a collection of conquered lands into a true civilization, vast, diverse, and remarkably resilient. By the end of his reign, Darius had transformed Persia from a fractured kingdom into a model of organization, communication, and governance. The empire that once teetered on the edge of chaos now thrived under his vision. The royal road carried messages and goods across continents. The satrap system kept governors accountable while respecting local traditions, and a standardized economy ensured that trade and taxes flowed smoothly from one end of the empire to the other. Every innovation strengthened the empire and bound its diverse peoples together. Generations of rulers would look to Darius as a blueprint from Alexander the Great to the architects of Rome, proof that a clever mind could turn rebellion into stability and ambition into enduring legacy. Darius proved that a man, once a distant relative of the throne, could rise through cunning, courage, and foresight, leaving an empire so well structured that it would outlast kings, armies, and even time itself. His legacy was not built in marble or gold alone. It was built in systems, order, and vision that would echo through the ages. After decades of vision and planning by kings like Cyrus and Darius, Persia's heart beats strongest in its capital, Persepolis. Morning light spills over grand palaces and stone-carved streets, and the city awakens with a symphony of life. Merchants shout prices for silk from the east, spices from India, and glittering jewelry that reflects the sun in dazzling patterns. Camels and carts carry goods from distant provinces along the royal road, connecting every corner of the empire to this vibrant hub. Children weave through the bustling crowds, laughing and playing in courtyards where artisans carve statues, sculpt reliefs, and etch the stories of kings and gods into stone. Priests tend to sacred fires, scholars gather in shaded halls to debate philosophy, and musicians fill the air with melodies that echo through the marble columns. Every face tells a story: traders negotiating, farmers delivering grain, soldiers marching with precision, and envoys whispering messages from faraway lands. The city hums with energy, a living testament to the systems and roads established by Darius. A city where governance, commerce, and culture converge. Persepolis is more than a capital. It is the heartbeat of an empire, where order meets diversity, and the vision of the King of Kings is etched into every stone, every street, and every life. Here, the empire's vastness becomes tangible, its strength seen not in armies alone, but in the daily rhythm of its people. In the heart of Persepolis, the city's rhythm is punctuated by celebration. Grand festivals mark the changing of seasons, sacred rituals, and the king's victories. Music flows through the streets as dancers whirl in colorful garments, their movements telling stories of gods, kings, and heroes. Poets recite verses that echo through marble columns, captivating nobles and commoners alike. Processions wind through the capital, displaying the empire's finest artistry. Golden ornaments, intricate tapestries, and the polished armor of soldiers standing at attention. Each parade is a vivid reminder of Persia's wealth, craftsmanship, and military strength. A performance designed not just to entertain, but to inspire awe and loyalty. During these festivals, the city feels alive in a way that transcends trade and governance. Farmers, merchants, and soldiers pause to celebrate together. Priests and scholars share wisdom. Children dance alongside the adults, learning the traditions that tie them to their land. Through music, spectacle, and ritual, the empire reinforces its unity. The people see the King of Kings not just as a distant ruler, but as the heart of a civilization where culture, community, and power converge, and where the empire's spirit lives in every celebration. At the heart of Persian cities burn the sacred flames of Zoroastrian fire temples, tended by priests whose voices recite ancient hymns. These flames are more than ritual, they are the pulse of the empire, guiding both spiritual life and civil order. Every decree, every law, Every act of governance reflects the moral philosophy taught in these temples: truth, justice, and the balance between good and evil. Citizens of many faiths, Greeks, Egyptians, Indians, and Jews, witness the ceremonies or even participate, finding respect for their own customs within the Persian system. The temples are not isolated sanctuaries. They are centers of community, culture, and administration, where scholars debate, records are kept, and the empire's laws are reinforced by spiritual authority. Through these sacred fires, Persia fosters tolerance and unity. Religion is not imposed, but integrated, shaping how people live, trade, govern, and interact. The flames illuminate more than stone walls. They illuminate a vision of empire where morality, law, and belief intertwine, binding millions across diverse lands under the watchful eye of the King of Kings. Persia was more than a collection of conquered lands. It was a tapestry of cultures, languages, and traditions. Greeks, Egyptians, Indians, and Jews lived under one crown, each preserving their customs while contributing to the vibrant life of the empire. Markets thrived with goods from every corner of the known world. Traders spoke in many tongues, families intermarried across regions, and scholars shared knowledge in the halls of Persepolis. Education, art, and commerce became bridges between peoples, weaving together a society that celebrated difference as much as unity. The kings understood that respect for local traditions strengthened loyalty. By honoring customs, festivals, and faiths, they turned diversity from a potential threat into a source of power. The empire did not merely survive its differences, it flourished because of them. In Persia, a mosaic of peoples moved, traded, and dreamed together under the watchful eye of the King of Kings. What could have been chaos became harmony, and from this union, the empire drew a strength that no single army or road could provide. Persia's streets, markets, and ports pulsed with the energy of a vast, interconnected empire. Merchants arrived from distant lands, carrying silk from the east, fragrant spices from India, and precious stones mined in Anatolia and beyond. Every bazaar was alive not only with trade but with stories, gossip, and whispers of alliances and diplomacy. Coins stamped with the king's seal moved effortlessly across provinces, unifying commerce and building trust. Farmers, artisans, and traders all knew the value of each gold, darik and silver, sigloi, and transactions became smoother than ever before. The royal road, ports along the Persian Gulf, and caravan trails created a web of connectivity that spanned continents, turning Persia into a living, breathing, global marketplace. Even in the smallest villages, the influence of trade was visible. Exotic fabrics adorned homes, spices flavored daily meals, and artisans incorporated foreign designs into their crafts. Knowledge, ideas, and culture traveled alongside goods, creating bonds between peoples separated by thousands of miles. In this vibrant economic system, wealth was more than gold. It was the flow of goods, ideas, and human connection. Persia's prosperity was proof that order, foresight, and standardized systems could transform a sprawling, diverse empire into a thriving, cohesive world where every market echoed with the heartbeat of the King of Kings. Within the bustling cities of Persia, artisans and craftsmen shaped the empire's soul. In sunlit workshops, apprentices watch closely as masters carve intricate designs into jewelry, weave vibrant textiles, mold pottery, and sculpt statues that honor gods and kings alike. Every piece is a testament to skill, patience, and vision. These creations are not just for beauty, they are symbols of prestige, power, and cultural identity. Persian designs travel beyond the empire's borders, influencing neighboring lands through trade and diplomacy, leaving echoes of Persian artistry across the known world. Craftsmanship becomes a source of pride for both artisans and patrons. From delicate gold ornaments to grand stone reliefs adorning palace walls, Each work reflects the empire's sophistication, wealth, and attention to detail. In Persia, art and life are inseparable. The creativity of the people mirrors the grandeur of the empire itself, a civilization where innovation, culture, and elegance thrive alongside roads, markets, and governance. Persia's empire thrived not only in wealth and art, but in the power of knowledge. Across the cities, libraries and schools preserved the wisdom of Persia, Greece, and Mesopotamia, creating a rich tapestry of learning. Scholars pored over ancient texts, charting the stars in astronomy, devising remedies in medicine, solving complex problems in mathematics, and crafting literature that captured the human experience. Education was encouraged not only for the elite but also for select merchants, administrators, and scribes, ensuring that innovation and insight spread throughout society. Courtyards buzzed with debates, observatories hummed with calculation, and lecture halls echoed with the questions of curious minds. Scholars traveled along the royal road, exchanging ideas with distant lands, bringing new techniques, stories, and discoveries back to Persia. In this environment, intellectual life flourished alongside the empire's political and economic power. Knowledge became a bridge connecting cultures, a tool for governance, and a foundation for progress. Persia's scholars proved that the strength of an empire lies not only in armies or roads, but in the ideas it cultivates, preserves, and shares a legacy that would inspire civilizations for centuries to come. Beyond the grandeur of palaces, the bustling markets, and the sacred temples, life in Persia thrived in the daily rhythms of ordinary people. Farmers tended their fields with care, sowing grains and harvesting crops that fed the empire, while soldiers patrolled roads, safeguarding caravans and trade routes that linked distant provinces. Families celebrated weddings, births, and seasonal rituals, blending traditions from every corner of the empire into vibrant local customs. Children played in courtyards as music and storytelling echoed through neighborhoods, while communal meals and gatherings strengthened bonds between neighbors and friends. Even as Persia ruled half the known world, its true strength lay not only in armies, roads, or governance, but in the lives of its people, the laughter, the work, the devotion, and the dreams that wove together a vast, diverse civilization. In these ordinary moments, the empire's heartbeat was alive, steady, and enduring, sustaining a society that would leave a mark on history for generations to come. Across the vast Persian Empire marched a force unlike any other, the legendary Immortals. 10,000 elite soldiers, their numbers always maintained, stood ready to defend the King of Kings and enforce the reach of his rule. They were more than an army, they were the empire's living symbol of strength, discipline, and unity. Composed of elite archers, cavalry, and infantry, the Immortals combined precision, speed, and overwhelming force. Their training was relentless. Each soldier drilled tirelessly to ensure perfect coordination, resilience, and loyalty. Tales of their skill and unwavering courage spread across Asia and Europe, striking fear into the hearts of enemies and inspiring respect among allies. Yet their power went beyond the battlefield. The Immortals served as a tool of order, a visible reminder that the empire's vast territories were connected by strength and vigilance. Wherever they marched, cities, trade routes, and borders felt the weight of Persia's reach. In the eyes of the world, the Immortals were immortal not only in name but in legacy, a force that embodied the might, strategy, and vision of a civilization determined to dominate and endure. The Persian Empire did not grow by chance. It expanded through a careful balance of diplomacy, intelligence, and military strategy. Governors and satraps reported on local unrest, allowing kings to respond swiftly to rebellions before they could spread. When resistance arose, Persian forces acted decisively but with restraint, quelling uprisings while preserving cities, traditions, and loyalty. Conquered peoples were often allowed to maintain their customs, creating stability across newly acquired lands, and fostering respect for the empire's rule. Campaigns were meticulously planned. Darius and his successors understood that raw force alone could not sustain such a vast empire. Expansion required foresight, coordination, and the strategic placement of loyal satraps who could manage regions while reporting back to the heart of Persia. Through this careful blend of negotiation and calculated military might, Persia stretched its influence from the Indus Valley to the Mediterranean, transforming itself into a cohesive, powerful realm, an empire that ruled not only with armies but with strategy, intelligence, and the promise of order. In 490 BCE, the Persian forces arrived on the shores of Greece, their confidence unshakable. Thousands of soldiers, archers, and cavalry, prepared to impose the might of the empire on the city-states that dared resist. Across the golden sands of Marathon, the Athenians readied themselves, not with numbers, but with cunning, strategy, and determination. The battle unfolded like a storm. Arrows darkened the sky, infantry clashed in thunderous waves, and the disciplined Persian lines met the fierce, coordinated charges of the Greek hoplites. Chaos and bravery intertwined as leaders made split-second decisions, turning the tide in moments that would echo through history. Despite being outnumbered, the Athenians' clever maneuvers held strong, inflicting a stunning defeat on the Persian forces. Marathon became more than a battlefield. It was a symbol of resilience, ingenuity, and the limits even the greatest empire could face when confronted by courage and strategy. For Persia, the battle was a lesson. Raw power could conquer lands, but respect for tactics, terrain, and the indomitable spirit of opponents was equally vital. The clash at Marathon would be remembered for generations, shaping both Greek pride and Persian adaptation in the campaigns to come. In 480 BCE, Xerxes marched into Greece with an army said to number in the hundreds of thousands, determined to crush the city-states that dared defy Persia. At the narrow pass of Thermopylae, a small force of Spartans and their allies stood as the world's unlikely shield. For 3 days, they held back the tide, their spears clashing against overwhelming numbers, their shields forming an unbreakable wall. Each soldier fought with courage that would echo through history, aware that death was almost certain, yet refusing to yield. The Persian army, though vast and disciplined, encountered a resistance it had not fully anticipated. The bravery, strategy, and sacrifice of a few slowed the advance of many, proving that sheer size alone could not guarantee victory. Thermopylae became a story of valor against impossible odds, a testament to human courage and endurance. In the shadows of mountains and bloodied sands, the limits of brute force were revealed, and the legend of heroism and sacrifice endured far beyond the battlefield, inspiring generations to come. As Xerxes pressed further into Greece, the Persian navy dominated the waves, thousands of ships poised to secure victory. But in the narrow straits of Salamis, the Greeks turned the tide. Knowledge of the terrain, careful planning, and relentless morale allowed a smaller fleet to confront the empire's might. Rowers strained at oars, soldiers shouted orders, and the waters became a stage for cunning and courage. Greek tactics funneled the massive Persian vessels into tight spaces, where their numbers became a disadvantage rather than an asset. Each maneuver, each feint, demonstrated that intelligence and strategy could outmatch raw power. Salamis became a turning point in the Persian campaign, proving that mastery of environment and morale could defeat even the largest force. Beyond the clashing ships, diplomacy and alliances played their part, as city-states coordinated to resist conquest. In the end, the Battle of Salamis showed that empires are tested not only on land but at sea, and that victory often favors the clever, the disciplined, and the daring, rather than the merely mighty. The Persian Empire was vast, stretching across mountains, deserts, and rivers. Yet it did not rely on armies alone to hold it together. Alliances, vassal states, and carefully negotiated treaties became the invisible threads that bound the empire. Tribute systems ensured loyalty without constant warfare, allowing conquered regions to flourish while acknowledging the King of Kings. Emissaries and messengers traveled thousands of miles, carrying decrees, news, and instructions, connecting distant provinces to the heart of Persia with remarkable speed and precision. Strategic marriages and diplomatic negotiations further cemented relations, blending politics with personal bonds to keep far-flung territories integrated. Every treaty, every envoy, and every carefully placed alliance became a tool of control, ensuring that the empire's strength endured far beyond the reach of swords and arrows. Through diplomacy, intelligence, and foresight, Persia demonstrated that ruling half the known world required more than force. It required wisdom, patience, and a vision that spanned continents. Even the mightiest empire faces unrest, and Persia was no exception. Across its vast territories, some regions chafed under distant rule, daring to rebel and test the authority of the King of Kings. Yet rebellion was rarely met with blind force alone. Generals and satraps combined negotiation, strategic shows of power, and precise, targeted military action to restore order. Intelligence networks stretched across mountains, deserts, and rivers, detecting plots before they could grow into full-scale uprisings. Spies, informants, and loyal governors ensured that even whispers of dissent were not ignored. Often, subtle measures, careful diplomacy, respect for local customs, or the timely intervention of a trusted envoy proved as powerful as armies. In this way, the empire maintained loyalty without excessive destruction, turning potential chaos into manageable challenges. Persia endured not simply because of the immortals or its formidable forces, but because its leaders understood a fundamental truth. In a realm spanning continents, foresight, cunning, and strategy often outweighed sheer strength. The empire's survival relied on wisdom, patience, and the skillful orchestration of both power and persuasion, ensuring that even in rebellion, Persia's reach remained unbroken. The Persian Empire left a mark far beyond the battlefield. Its military innovations, the disciplined immortals, coordinated cavalry, and flexible strategies influenced later conquerors, from Alexander the Great to the generals of Rome. But Persia's true genius lay in balance. Combining diplomacy, intelligence, and military power into a cohesive system of governance, the empire demonstrated that victory was not won by brute force alone, but by clever planning, strategic alliances, and careful observation of both friends and foes. The story of Persia's battles and negotiations serves as a timeless reminder. An empire's greatest weapon is often its mind, not just its sword. Lessons of strategy, foresight, and calculated power echoed through the centuries, inspiring civilizations and shaping the course of world history. Persia proved that ruling half the known world required more than armies. It demanded vision, intelligence, and a mastery of the art of power itself. After decades of careful strategy, diplomacy, and military brilliance under Darius, the Persian Empire was at its peak, vast, organized, and powerful. Yet with such greatness came enormous expectations, and the mantle now fell to Xerxes, the heir of kings. Groomed in luxury and trained for leadership, Xerxes inherited not only lands and armies, but also the lessons of his predecessors, the importance of strategy, intelligence, and measured power. Within the palace walls, courtiers whispered advice and secrets, generals debated plans, and rivals watched for the first sign of weakness. From the start, Xerxes displayed ambition and vision, determined to extend Persia's reach and assert his place in history. Yet subtle signs of overconfidence emerged, a desire to outshine even the careful, disciplined rule of Darius. The empire's strength, built on foresight and calculated action, now rested on a young king whose decisions could either secure its legacy or tip the balance toward disaster. In the heart of this colossal realm, Xerxes began his journey as King of Kings, poised between the lessons of the past and the monumental challenges of his own ambitions. Xerxes, inheriting the vast Persian Empire, now sought to leave his mark on history. He assembled one of the largest armies the world had ever seen, stretching across thousands of miles, a force meant to awe and dominate. Soldiers, archers, and cavalry filled the plains, while engineers and laborers built bridges over rivers, ensuring the army could move swiftly across the continent. Along the coasts, fleets of ships were aligned like a moving fortress, their banners glinting in the sun. Camps glittered with gold and splendor, displaying the wealth and power of Persia. A spectacle meant to strike both fear and admiration into the hearts of allies and enemies alike. Spies scouted the terrain, generals planned every maneuver, and logistics teams ensured that supplies could reach every soldier in this colossal endeavor. Every detail, from the positioning of siege engines to the morale of troops, was orchestrated with precision. This was more than a military campaign, it was a statement of imperial ambition. Xerxes sought not only conquest but a display of the empire's grandeur, a demonstration that Persia's reach and organization were unmatched in the known world. And so, the stage was set for a clash that would echo through history. With bridges spanning rivers and fleets lining the coasts, Xerxes' massive army began its march into Greece. The terrain was unfamiliar. Mountains, forests, and narrow passes tested the limits of logistics, supply lines, and coordination. Yet the sheer scale of the force was enough to strike awe and fear into every village and city along the way. As the columns of soldiers advanced, scouts reported back with intelligence about Greek defenses, while local populations trembled at the approaching might of Persia. The empire's grandeur was on full display. Banners fluttered, gold shimmered in the sunlight, and the presence of the king himself loomed over the army like a living symbol of power. Greek city-states, long rivals, now faced a common threat. They hurried to fortify passes, rally troops, and prepare strategies that could withstand an empire. The tension was palpable. The stage was set for confrontations that would test courage, ingenuity, and the very limits of human endurance. In every step, Xerxes projected both charisma and menace, reminding all that this was not merely an invasion, it was a statement of ambition, a contest between the world's mightiest empire and a small, determined coalition of city-states. In the narrow mountain pass of Thermopylae, Xerxes' vast army met a force far smaller but fiercely determined. The 300 Spartans, alongside their allies, held the line with unmatched courage, turning the pass into a crucible of valor. Each clash of sword and shield echoed across the rocky terrain as bravery faced overwhelming numbers. Xerxes watched from his elevated vantage, witnessing both the immense power of his army and the shocking limits of sheer numbers. Every Spartan stood as a testament to strategy, discipline, and unwavering resolve, reminding the king that even the mightiest empire could be challenged by courage and ingenuity. The battle was brutal and chaotic, with calculated maneuvers and heroic charges punctuating the narrow pass. For Persia, Thermopylae was both a test and a revelation. Raw force alone could not guarantee victory. For the Greeks, it became a symbol of defiance, honor, and the extraordinary lengths men would go to protect their homeland. In that narrow corridor between mountains and sea, strategy, valor, and the weight of leadership converged, leaving a story that would resonate for centuries, a clash of ambition and courage that even a king of kings could not ignore. While the land armies pressed into Greece, the Persian navy dominated the seas, a floating fortress stretching for miles. Ships glinted under the sun, banners fluttered, and Xerxes observed the unfolding battles from his golden throne, confident in the might of his fleet. But the narrow straits of Salamis became a trap for even the largest armada. The Greeks, smaller in number but clever in strategy, used the terrain to their advantage. Ships collided, oars splintered, and the waters became a theater of chaos, skill, and daring. Intelligence and local knowledge allowed the Greeks to outmaneuver the massive Persian forces, turning what should have been a display of unstoppable power into a costly struggle. Each victory and loss rippled across the empire, challenging assumptions about strength and command. As Xerxes watched, cracks began to show in his hubris. The grandeur of numbers could not replace foresight, and even a king of kings had to reckon with the cunning of those defending their homeland. Salamis proved that strategy, terrain, and morale could challenge even the mightiest empire. While Xerxes focused on conquering Greece, whispers of dissent grew across the vast Persian Empire. Provinces and satrapies, stretched by distance and drained by taxes, began to challenge imperial authority. Messages of rebellion traveled swiftly along the royal road, and the empire's intelligence networks worked tirelessly to contain unrest before it spread. Within the palace, intrigue simmered. Generals, advisors, and court officials jostled for favor, sometimes betraying loyalty for personal gain. Xerxes had to navigate this web of ambition, maintaining control while balancing the fragile loyalties that held his sprawling realm together. The prolonged campaigns revealed a harsh truth. Even a king of kings faced limits. Absolute power could be tested not only on the battlefield, but in the whispers of governors, the murmurs of soldiers, and the quiet resistance of distant peoples. Each rebellion, each act of defiance, was both a challenge and a lesson. Xerxes learned that ruling an empire of continents demanded more than ambition and armies. It required vigilance, diplomacy, and the steady hand of a ruler capable of holding diverse lands and peoples in unity. Within the gilded walls of Xerxes' palace, power was as much a weapon as any sword. Nobles and advisors constantly vied for favor, their whispers carrying plots, betrayals, and secret alliances. Every smile could hide ambition, and every gesture might conceal treachery. Xerxes, aware that a single misstep could destabilize his empire, learned to balance punishment with diplomacy. A calculated reprimand here, a generous reward there, each action carefully measured to maintain loyalty without inciting rebellion. Espionage and intelligence became as crucial within the palace as on the battlefield. Messages were intercepted, alliances monitored, and loyalties tested. The life of a king was never safe from intrigue. And even surrounded by opulence, danger lingered in every shadow. Through this theater of wealth, influence, and subtle deception, Xerxes navigated the human complexities of power. The palace was more than a home. It was a crucible, shaping not only the king's decisions but the fate of an empire stretching across continents. Xerxes' reign reminds us that even the mightiest empires have their limits. His campaigns stretched the Persian army across continents, displaying grandeur, ambition, and unmatched scale, but also exposing the fragile threads holding an empire together. Overextension of resources, misjudged strategy, and the subtle weight of hubris slowly eroded the strength that his ancestors, like Darius, had carefully built. Each battle, each rebellion, and each palace intrigue became a lesson in the delicate balance between power and prudence. Xerxes' legacy is complex. Towering monuments of ambition sit alongside tales of costly mistakes and near-catastrophic decisions. His name evokes both awe and caution, a king of kings who reached for glory, but found that ambition, untempered by wisdom, can be a trap as formidable as any enemy army. Through triumph and overreach, Xerxes' story endures, teaching that ruling a vast empire requires not just strength, but foresight, humility, and the courage to know one's limits. By the time Xerxes' reign had ended, the Persian Empire had survived both monumental victories and costly setbacks, wars and court intrigues, ambition and overreach. Yet beyond the battles and rulers, the empire left a legacy that would echo across the centuries. Persia's innovative systems of governance, carefully structured satrapies, standardized taxation, and codified laws became a model for future rulers. Alexander the Great studied these administrative frameworks to strengthen his own conquests, while Roman governors adopted Persian civil methods to manage vast territories efficiently. The empire's roads, trade networks, and standardized currency did more than unify Persia. They became the arteries of cultural exchange, commerce, and diplomacy, inspiring distant civilizations to rethink how to connect people and lands across continents. Even societies far beyond Persia's borders borrowed, adapted, and evolved from its blueprint of organization and cohesion. Through infrastructure, law, and diplomacy, Persia demonstrated that the true strength of an empire lies not only in armies or treasures, but in the systems, values, and vision it leaves behind. Its influence endured long after kings and battles faded into history, shaping the way civilizations would build, govern, and connect the world for millennia. One of Persia's greatest achievements wasn't built in stone walls or carved on monuments, it was carved into the land itself. The royal road stretched across continents, connecting distant cities, markets, and armies, turning a vast collection of provinces into a single, cohesive empire. Along these roads, messages raced from one end of the empire to the other. Relay stations, manned by messengers and couriers, allowed news, orders, and intelligence to travel faster than any army could march. Goods from spices to silk flowed freely, linking cultures, economies, and peoples in ways that had never been seen before. This network wasn't just practical, it was revolutionary. It allowed rulers to maintain control, generals to coordinate campaigns, and merchants to expand trade, all across thousands of miles. The concept of connecting distant regions efficiently would echo through history, influencing infrastructure projects and civilizations that came long after Persia. Through roads and communication, Persia showed that an empire's strength lay not just in soldiers, but in its ability to link hearts, minds, and lands, building a world that was as connected as it was vast. The true genius of the Persian Empire wasn't only in its armies or roads, it lay in its people who ran the empire day by day. The satrap system divided the vast lands into provinces, each overseen by a governor who reported back to the king. This created a chain of accountability that kept even the most distant regions under control. Officials trained in law, finance, and diplomacy worked tirelessly to ensure order. Taxes were collected efficiently, reports flowed steadily, and governance followed structured systems that minimized corruption and maximized stability. These civil servants were the unseen backbone of Persia, turning chaos into coordinated rule. By combining local autonomy with centralized oversight, Persia demonstrated that conquest alone cannot sustain an empire. True power comes from organization, structure, and capable administration. Lessons that would echo through Alexander's campaigns and Roman provincial governance. In every decree, report, and provincial inspection, Persia showed that an empire's longevity depends on the minds and systems that manage it, proving that bureaucracy can be as mighty as any sword. Persia's influence extended far beyond politics and administration. It shaped the very culture of the lands it touched. Persian art, architecture, and intricate design spread across conquered territories, leaving a lasting imprint on Asia, the Mediterranean, and beyond. Festivals filled with music, dance, and poetry celebrated both local traditions and imperial identity, blending cultures in ways that enriched communities and forged loyalty. Craftsmen, artisans, and musicians carried Persian techniques and styles into distant lands, creating a legacy that would resonate for centuries. Cultural blending under Persian rule became a blueprint for future empires, showing how diversity could be a source of strength rather than conflict. From grand palaces to everyday objects, Persian aesthetics influenced the ordinary lives of people and the splendor of royal courts alike. Through this cultural exchange, the Persian Empire proved that power is not measured only in armies or territory, but in the enduring beauty, ideas, and traditions it leaves behind. One of Persia's most enduring legacies wasn't its armies, roads, or monuments. It was the way it ruled over difference. Across an empire stretching from the Indus Valley to the Aegean, countless peoples with their own languages, customs, and religions coexisted under Persian authority. Religious tolerance wasn't merely idealistic, it was practical. By allowing diverse communities to maintain their traditions, the empire fostered loyalty and stability, turning potential conflict into a source of strength. Tribute systems, negotiated alliances, and strategic marriages further ensured that distant provinces remained integrated without constant warfare. Diplomacy became a tool as powerful as any sword. Ambassadors, envoys, and royal decrees reinforced the bonds that held the empire together, while leaders learned that respect, negotiation, and fairness could achieve what brute force alone could not. These lessons of tolerance, negotiation, and governance continue to resonate today, offering timeless insight into how diverse societies can coexist and thrive under a single system of rule. The Persian Empire didn't just rule with roads, laws, and culture. It shaped the art of warfare itself. Military innovations developed under kings like Cyrus, Darius, and Xerxes became models for future conquerors, from Alexander the Great to Roman generals and beyond. Persian armies combined archers, cavalry, and infantry in coordinated formations, while intelligence networks and logistics systems ensured that vast forces could move and communicate across continents. This wasn't just power, it was planning, foresight, and strategy made manifest. But Persia's true genius lay in the balance of diplomacy and force. Campaigns were won not just by swords, but by negotiation, alliances, and careful observation of enemies. The empire proved that brains could outmatch brute strength, and that a lasting empire depends as much on clever planning as it does on courage in battle. Through these lessons, Persia's military legacy became timeless, a blueprint showing that wisdom and strategy can shape the world as decisively as any army. The cities of Persia were far more than administrative hubs. They were living symbols of ambition, culture, and artistry. In Persepolis, Susa, and other grand centers, palaces and temples rose in staggering splendor, adorned with intricate reliefs, towering columns, and monumental staircases that told stories of kings, battles, and divine favor. Every detail, the carvings of processions, the depictions of artisans and soldiers, the decorative motifs blending Persian, Mesopotamian, and Egyptian influences spoke of a deliberate celebration of diversity and unity. These structures weren't merely impressive, they embodied the identity and values of an empire that spanned continents. Beyond their ceremonial or symbolic function, these monuments demonstrated advanced engineering, urban planning, and artistry that supported both beauty and practicality. Roads, water systems, and courtyards integrated seamlessly, revealing how Persian architects balanced utility with grandeur. Modern archaeologists uncover these marvels and are continually amazed by the sophistication of Persian construction, design, and vision. Each palace, temple, and relief is more than stone. It's a story, a record, and a testament to the enduring ingenuity of a civilization that sought to leave a lasting mark on history. Empires rise and fall, but true greatness endures not in walls or armies, but in ideas. The Persian Empire may have vanished from the battlefield, yet its influence continues to shape governance, law, culture, and diplomacy across the world. From Cyrus's pioneering approach to human rights, to Darius's innovative administration and infrastructure, to Xerxes' lessons in ambition and overreach, their stories offer timeless insights into leadership, strategy, and vision. Persian ideals of tolerance, organization, and respect for diverse peoples became a model for future civilizations. Inspiring rulers from Alexander the Great to modern statesmen. Even today, the concepts forged in Persia's Golden Age roads, linking distant lands, structured governance, religious tolerance, and the balance of diplomacy and force, echo in how societies organize, lead, and coexist. The empire's power wasn't just in conquest. It was in its ideas, its systems, and its capacity to endure beyond the reign of any king. They vanished from the battlefield, yet the essence of Persia still rules our world. A reminder that the true measure of an empire is not the lands it holds, but the legacy it leaves behind.